all your academic documents. And these could be your transcripts, could be your certificates, could be your professional programs that you've done. So all put together would be your academic documents. Then schools would ask for letters of recommendation from teachers, it could be from people you've worked with, all put together would be the recommendations they ask for. Most schools would ask you to write essays at the undergraduate level. And then for the graduate level, the essay is called a statement of purpose. So for the statement of purpose, it's a comprehensive essay that makes a real difference when it comes to the applications. And it's quite technical. So for us as Education Years Advising Centers, we guide students to be able to write effective essays to the schools so that they can get they can send their messages across as to how unique they are as individuals. Some schools would ask for CVs or resumes. Some schools would ask for a portfolio, depending on the program you are going to do. Some schools would also ask you to get any other thing that will let you stand out. So you put all these together and it helps with the application process. And then when you've put all the application documents together, you submit it and know that you've completed your application. Step 4 is to apply for the student visa. Applying for student visas are also very technical. So for all Education Years Advising Centers, we do guide students to know how to put all their documents together to be able to apply for student visas successfully. Because once you get admitted, a school will give you an admission letter, and then they will give you a document called the I-20 that you would need to submit during your visa interview. You would need your academic documents, you would need your financial documents, and then there are some other things in terms of filling your forms. There's the DS-160 you'd have to fill. There's also the visa application fee you have to pay, and then there's the CVIS fee you would have to pay. So we guide you through the visa application process so that you can be able to present yourself well when you're applying for the visas. For some advising centers, most of the time they encourage consular officers to also talk to students so that they know what they expect when they stand in front of them. So getting in touch with any Education Years Advising Center puts you in a position to prepare well for your students' visas. The last step is step 5, prepare for your departure. All Education Years Advising Centers offer pre-departure orientation. And the pre-departure orientation is to guide you to know what to do when you're traveling from your local airports to the US. When you get to immigration, what do you do? After immigration, how do you get to your school? When you get to your school, how do you adjust? We take you through pre-departure orientation so that when you get to the US, you don't go there as a stranger. You go there quite confident, knowing exactly what you will be doing. These are a few resources I'd want you to look at. These are search engines you could use when you're looking for schools in the US. For undergraduate students, there's a college navigator. The website is here. There's the College Board Big Future, which is also a good search engine to search for schools. For graduate schools, there's the gradschools.com, which also guides you to successfully look for graduate programs, which is for both undergraduate and graduate students. And once you get there, it will help you to know how to search for these schools. So basically, for us as Education USA, we have this program called Education USA Scholars Program. It is a program for high achieving students in all our various countries. And all US institutions know about this program and respect it a lot. So for all students who are academically great, who have a lot of extracurricular activities and leadership skills, we groom them to become part of the Education USA Scholars Program so that as they apply to the various schools, they can mention that they are Education USA Scholars from, say, Education USA Kumasi or Education USA Abuja or Education USA anywhere in the world. And this makes a world of a difference during the application process, so that if you know high achieving students, you can ask them to get in touch with Education USA and then ask for the Education USA Scholars Program so that they can be a part of the program. So finally, as I bring the presentation to the end, I want everyone to know that we are at your service. We are in almost every country, and even for Ghana, there are 2 Education Years Advising Centers. For other countries, it's the same thing. So get in touch with an Education Years Advising Center and then get all the information you need to be able to successfully study in the US. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Marilyn, for this informative session. We learned a lot about Education USA, and I'm sure our participants here have questions they may have posted in the chat box, and we will address them later. Thank you very much for this informative session.
You're welcome.
Wow, and between the sessions, as we've been trying to get everything started so we could start on time because we could see all of you in the waiting room, I wanted to take a moment right now to introduce who is the opening Master of Ceremonies today. You already met her when she introduced Marilyn, but that is Safiatou Endai, who works with me in the Regional English Language Office in Dakar, covering West Africa. And Safi, can you just do a brief introduction and talk a little bit about yourself? For everyone who doesn't know you, because that would only be the people probably way far to the east of Africa.
All right, thank you, Dawn. So as Dawn mentioned, we work together in Dakar at the Regional English Language Office. I have a teacher background. I taught for many years before working for the U.S. Embassy and managing various English language programs that help support teachers' professional development and support the English learning in Senegal and 13 other countries in West Africa. So it's my pleasure to be with you today.
Great. So I guess back to the ceremonies, and I'm going to leave it to Safi to introduce our keynote speaker.
Thank you very much, Dawn. So it's my pleasure and honor to introduce our next speaker, Saman Ange Michel Gogo. So he will be doing the keynote today, which is entitled Using Massive Open Online Courses for an Educative Global Citizenship Resilience. But before that, let's know more about our speaker. So Saman Ange Michel Gogo is a researcher, volunteer, a TESOLer, and a lifelong learner. Saman Ange Michel attended a TESOL virtual convention and English language expo, and at the first and second West Africa TESOL conference and third CINELTA conference. His goal is to support personal and professional development in collaboration with researchers and practitioners. His doctoral dissertation field was in language and communication sciences at University Alassane Ouattara of Côte d'Ivoire. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in wishing a warm welcome to Michel. Michel, you have the floor.
Ladies and gentlemen, hope you feel well. My name is Michel Gougou. I am from a West Africa francophone country, and welcome at this event and in this global village of learning, sharing as global citizens, whatever your location. Firstly, I would like to tell you my story. In 2015, while I was a student, I remember that in an afternoon, our professor said that it was possible to take massive open online courses with international universities in order to get certificates and also skills. People didn't trust that, but I registered on the platform FUN MOOC and I got my first certificate. Then in 2016, while I was serving in an NGO as trainer, our boss, the supervisor, said that English is very important and we had to find some resources in order to empower the leaders. So I took massive online courses taught in English. It was the first time for me on the platform of Philanthropy University. A big challenge because I was not a native English speaker, and it was very difficult for me to practice English language, to think in English. But on the platform, there was a good environment of collaboration, of learning, and they were very kind with me. So at the end of the training, I got my certificate, but also I could apply the resources in my daily, because I was trainer of leaders of civil society organizations. Then in 2018, while I was still in Boaké, a rural city of Côte d'Ivoire, after my training at the US Embassy Abidjan, I needed to be in touch with immersive open online courses or opportunities to train myself. And I found on the Facebook page of American English Aspect and Opportunity 2 courses, teaching English to learners, teaching grammar communicatively. It was for me the first time to take online courses as a teacher. And when I finished, I could apply the resources in my daily. Just to say that in this 21st century, I have to speak, I have to share information relative to massive open online courses because it is my story, it is my life, and it is very important in order to empower both learners and also practitioners and teachers. So my presentation, this keynote, is related to using massive open online courses for an educative global citizenship in also a context of resilience. Firstly, it is noticeable that I've outlined introduction, first point, massive open online courses and global education. Second point, experience of an educational global resilience. Third point, using massive open online courses to prepare next generation of global citizens. Then the conclusion. As introduction, it's noticeable that now we are in an interdependent and interconnected world. It means that people are interconnected based on digital tools, and also it is a trend of globalization. Also, in this context, massive open online courses use English to share, to disseminate knowledge, and to empower learners. It means also that it results in various skills acquisitions related to global citizenship, like collaboration, cooperation, and so on, digital skills. And it is a global citizenship education. Very important to use MOOC in order to promote equity, equality, diversity, and inclusion, education for all. So the objective for me is to inspire you to use massive open online courses daily for a sustainable educative resilience to prepare the next generation of global citizens. And as methods, because I'm sharing the results of a research, I use firstly a qualitative, descriptive study based on ethnography. It means that I observed what do they do, what how do they do that, and what do they say about their practices. And I observed people who took MOOCs. It means that a convenient sample of 60 non-native English speakers in Côte d'Ivoire, and they took MOOCs taught in English and completed these courses. And I collected the data by using observation, storytelling, and interview. And data analysis, I use the conversation analysis. Firstly, what is a global education? Global education means the fact also to get knowledge, to share ideas, understanding by diverse people in the world. It's the fact to promote also diverse cultures, identities, whatever your location and background. So global education calls also to take into consideration intercultural education and skills and multicultural context. In this environment of changing world, massive open online course is related to massive because it offers to everyone the opportunity to be connected. More than 100,000 students in the world connected simultaneously. Also, whatever your level and your condition of society, in the society, you can register, you can take these courses online, and also they are similar, like the trainings and the real courses that you get in the colleges. Did you already take a MOOC in your life? And in which language was it taught? I would like to continue and share the experience. I shared my story. I would like to share the story of a 16 non-native English speaker who taught MOOCs, massive open courses taught in English. During the period of the pandemic, there was a lockdown. And on the platform Class Central was said that for a limited time, Coursera offers free certificates. It means that the courses were taught in English and were registered. Their motivation. For them, it was very important to take these online courses, even they were taught in English, firstly to be educated and get opportunities of networking with others in the world. The curiosity and pleasure to learn, and also the fast to grow in the way to identify new trends, to get an international certificate for job opportunities, professional development, and the fact also to be in touch with others. But they encountered challenges because there were no native English speakers, were all francophone. For example, the internet and material accessibility. Also, the big challenge was to think and work spontaneously in English while it was not their mother tongue. Similarly, the perception of others about the credibility of most people, they say often that it's not very relevant. And time management due to daily difficulties and activities. But they didn't give up. They go ahead in order to complete these online courses, even if these courses were taught in English, and English was not their mother tongue. They got professional development skills like knowledge, certificate, the fact to know the trends, and also to practice, to get teaching materials, and so on. Personal development, because at the end of this training, they could mention that the English language proficiency was better in speaking, writing, reading, listening. The fact to get autonomy, soft skills in communication. The fact also to enhance digital skills, collaboration, critical thinking, and so on. Benefits also is the way of intercultural competencies, like the fact to be aware of cultural relativity, promote peace, justice, avoid discrimination, the fact to be involved in community problem solving, because the 21st century skills means also collaboration, cooperation, problem solving, critical thinking, citizenship, leadership, digital literacy, and so on. Benefits. It says also that global citizens are open-minded, curious, compassionate, collaborative, co-creative, inclusive, non-discriminatory, responsible, reflective, and well-informed individuals. And we can see that now at outcome, the sustainability of our educative system and also communities by taking online courses with fairness, with well-being of teachers, learners, and other members of the community, intercultural understanding, and also diversity, equity, and inclusion. Now, using massive open online courses to prepare next generation of global citizens, it's very important to mention that be a global citizen, it means also be a lifelong learner. It is a lifelong learning process that requires continuous reflection on our work. Online Professional English Network offers specific courses for teachers to teach English, get materials, improve their practices, but also for learners. It means that you can, for example, take the course about tourism, communication skills, digital literacy, journalism, entrepreneurship, and so on. While you are learning, you learn English too. The second platform I would like to mention is Canvas, because I took many courses on Canvas. Canvas, because the best educators never stop learning. So you must not stop to learn. You must be connected on the platform to take massive open online courses taught in English in order to improve your own English language skills as teacher, but as learner, whatever your function in the society, for opportunity to get certificates, to collaborate with others in the world, to get a network, to get also great opportunities to impact and solve the problems of your community by networking, promoting peace, equality, education for all, and be aware of the challenges related to the planet. Here, Class Central is a very useful website in order to identify the opportunities related to massive open online courses with free of charge certificates. You can see now Coursera, FetchLearn, also Audacity, FUN. FUN, it is a France University Numeric Digital, all right, and so on. Now, I would like to show you the links, Canvas, Coursera, EDX, FetchLearn, Khan Academy, Open Learning, Online Professional English Network, Audacity. You can register, you can take free of charge massive open online courses on these platforms in order to improve your English language as teacher, your English language practices as teacher, but as learners also, and whatever your job, your function in the society, You can learn not English specifically, but get a knowledge for your own job. But by learning, using the English language as teaching medium or lingua franca of learning, you improve simultaneously your own English language skills. You develop also your soft skills in the way to collaborate, to interact with people, whatever the environment, the cultures, and to develop, to promote peace, equity, equality, diversity, to be a more resilient person. As conclusion, I would like you to mention that Massive Open Online course for global citizenship or global education is very important to promote education for all. That is the aim of the 21st century, because it is the fact to pursue knowledge, ideas, and understanding among people from different cultures, from different environments and social level. It is a way to balance education between global South countries and also Western countries. As an experience of educational global citizens from the case of COVID-19 outbreak, we can notice that massive open online courses are very important for a pedagogical continuity in a contextual challenges. You can use them in order to overcome your problem in your daily local teaching environment or local society, but also taking into consideration your local solutions impact the global solutions and so on. It means that it is a dialogue between the participants in order to find a way of well-being of people. It means that of themselves as teachers, as learners, and of the community, the well-being also of the planet, in intercultural communication skills, and also it is a way to improve the language mastery in the field of English to get professional and personal development. To conclude also, using MOOCs to prepare next generation of global citizenship is very important, so that we have to adopt a lifelong learning approach as global citizens, teachers, and learners. We must register, take, and complete multi-open online courses taught in English in order to know what do people do in their environment and how can we apply the practices in our own environment to solve our difficulties and challenges. It is a way of dialogue, conversation, of networking, a way to grow and to impact as global citizens. Add MOOCs in professional and personal development initiatives in order to improve your own identity and to empower others. Also, apply MOOCs resources, materials like open educational resources in the English language teaching classroom and to develop global citizenship values as learners. Also improve your learner skills and colleagues. It's very important to foster the new curricular design to support adult education in English as foreign language, is English as a language teaching in TESOL also by using massive open online courses. Now, can you take the engagement to use massive open online courses for your professional and personal development? Can you take the engagement to promote massive open online courses in your teaching and community context for a global citizenship access, global education access? Can you take the engagement to apply global citizenship skills in your English class to empower your students? References. So it was my story. It was their story. Now, the big question is, what is your story? I would like to hear your story about taking massive open online courses very soon. We have to be change makers as global citizens and teachers, and English is the global language. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Michelle, for this brilliant presentation. So inspiring. Thank you for sharing your passion and for your passion for professional development. Thank you for sharing your passion for professional development. I guess the takeaway here is best educators never stop learning. And I would add the best teachers are lifelong learners, which you definitely are from the story you have just shared with us. Thank you very much, and I hope many people here will respond to your invitation to try the MOOCs. At this point, I don't know, Don, if there is time for question and answers. If so, maybe we can go ahead with that.
Unfortunately not, but we are so lucky, Michelle, you are with us, and I'm glad to see you again on the video. But please put any questions or comments you have in the chat box, and Michelle can answer them there as we move on to our next speaker. And I believe our moderator is in the room for our next speaker. So hopefully he is able to join to introduce our next presentation.
Hello, everyone. It's my pleasure to be with you. Our next speaker is Patrice Canet. Patrice Canet is working for the Malian Ministry of Education as a pedagogical advisor and teacher. He's in charge of observing and supervising secondary school teacher of English for their professional development. He is also a member of the Malian Association of Teachers of English, and he was a member of the IETFL GISIG online committee. So let's welcome Patrice Canet.
Hello, everyone. I'm really glad to have you for this presentation. My topic is teaching sustainable development goals in FL classrooms to foster the global citizenship. Now, here are the session outcomes. You will have developed knowledge of global schools program, education for sustainable development, its competencies and objectives. You also will have understood the intention behind the Sustainable Development Solution Network, SDSN, and the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And finally, we will have demonstrated knowledge to integrate with SDGs in your classroom course. Great. Here, what do you understand by Global Schools Program and ESD objectives? Here we have the Global Schools Program is an initiative of the SDSN in support of the UNESCO's Education for Sustainable Development Goal for 2030 roadmaps. What this means? It means for the UNESCO to help our students to develop competencies to have a better future by 2030. And for this one, the Education for Sustainable Development has some objectives I would like to mention here. The first one cover the cognitive domain. The cognitive domain comprises the knowledge and thinking skill necessary to better understand the SDGs and the challenges in achieving it. So it means we need our students to develop, when teaching these lessons, to develop understanding on the cognitive domain, and we need to improve the different skills to understand the objectives the USN made to get by 2013. The second objective covers the socio-emotional domain. This domain includes the social skills that allow our learners to collaborate, and then they are going to negotiate and communicate to promote the SDGs, as well as self-reflection skills. And the last objective for sustainable education for sustainable development is to describe action to help our students develop competencies. For example, it can be collecting plastic, or you can also encourage your students to organize a wash day or planting 3 days. It can also be a volunteering action. Next slide. Okay, the SDG competencies for students. The UNESCO believes when we teachers and educators, we would like to teach, help our students, it's better to help our students to focus and help them to develop the different skills we have here. The first one is system thinking competency. This competence help our learner to understand how systems are interlinked to each other. It means how the family is related to the school and how the school also is related to the community and the community is related to the family. Moreover, to expand this explanation, our students also need to understand and develop knowledge about how economic factors, environmental factors, and political factors fit together. The next competency we like our students to develop is the anticipatory competence. This competence helps our learner to anticipate the future, to predict what might happen in the future, to face the challenges and propose something to face. And the fourth competence is normative competence. This competence helps our learners, this competence helps our learners to question norms, to question the values of sustainable development goals and what they need to go. The responsibility in the family, the responsibility in the community. And we have also strategic competence. The strategic competence focus more on collaboration of the students. They need to develop the skills now to challenge or to address the challenges that they might have to achieve the SDGs. Next slide. Okay, so the one is here collaboration competence. We also would like our students to develop competencies of collaboration. Here, they need to do work together to achieve the goals by 2030. This can be in classroom activity to help them to work in the classroom, group work, and it can also be a project action to give to students outside the classroom. And the next competency is critical thinking. This helps our students to develop more understanding instead of repeating things and accepting everything. They themselves need to question themselves to have a better understanding of the sustainable development goals. And the next one is self-awareness competence. This competence helps our learners to be aware of themselves, to help them to understand themselves. This also can help them to understand the others. If you understand yourself, for sure, you may all understand the other people. And that will help our students to work and to live in a diverse environment, diverse opinion. And finally, the last competency is problem solving competency. This competence focus on the integration of all of the evolved competencies to solve the problem, to have better answer to achieve the sustainable development goals. Okay, next slide. Okay, here, what is meant by SDSM Young? It is an initiative program launched by Ban Ki-moon in 2012. This is to mobilize the experts around the SDGs. That's me. This was a call to gather scientists, to gather engineers, to gather politicians and educators, how they can have a pathway to achieve a sustainable development goals. Okay, now let's have the 17 SDGs. Sustainable development goals are a global vision to shape a more sustainable future. For this, they are making a call for a systematic changes. That means, so it will be a changes at economic level, it will be a changes at climate level, it will be a changes at peace level and inclusive for everyone to address social inequality. Now, what I'm going to tell, what are the SDGs that you know? Now, get ready to give your answers in the chat box. Tell me what are the SDGs you know. Okay, thank you very much for your answers. Now it is time to check your answers with me. Let me show you the 17 SDGs and the different targets. The first one is no poverty. This target is to end poverty in all its form everywhere in the world. Next one, the goal 2, this is to end the hunger, achieve food security, and improve nutrition and promote sustainable agriculture. The goal 3, this is to ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all at all age. And the goal 4, which is really important for us as teachers, this is to ensure inclusive and equitable education and promote lifelong learning opportunity for all. The goal 9, the goal 5, this is to achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls. The goal 6 is to ensure availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all, of course. And the goal 7 is to ensure access to affordable, reliable, sustainable, and clean energy for all. And the goal 8, this is to promote sustained, inclusive, and sustainable economy growth, full and productive employment, and decent work for all. And the goal 9 targets to build infrastructure, promote inclusive and sustainable industrialization, and foster innovation. The goal 10 targets to reduce inequality within and among countries. And the goal 11 targets to make cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. And the goal 12 targets to ensure sustainable consumption and production patterns. The goal 13 take urgent action to combat climate change and impact. The goal 14 now, this target to conserve and sustainability use of the ocean, sea, and marine resources for sustainable development. And the goal 15, to protect restore and promote sustainable use of territorial ecosystem, sustainably manage forest, combat desertification, and halt and resolve land degradation and halt biodiversity loss. The goal 16 targets to promote peaceful and inclusive society for sustainable development, provide access to justice for all, and build effective, accountable, and inclusive institutions at all levels. And the last goal targets to strengthen the implementation and revitalize a global partnership for sustainable development. So all these goals would like to say us, we need to prepare our students to understand that today we need to use the resources, economy on the land and the water resources, energy resources, and to have a better future. That means to use this in a way so that not to compromise the future of the next generation and to promote peace, inclusive world. Next slide. Now, when you would like to plan a lesson to integrate the sustainable development goals, you will need to think about some principles. And this is an example I work on in my classroom. So the goal one was no poverty. So first you need to think about the localization, think to make sure when you are teaching sustainable development that it is relevant to your student context. Think also that integrative materials, the materials you are going to use, make sure they are available in your context. And the last thing you need to think about is interdisciplinary approach. This concerns more about policymakers, school operators, and school owners that permit them to integrate these goals in the different subject tools at school. For a language teacher, it can be the same for mathematics teachers. It can also be included in a geography lesson. Next slide. Now, this is a clear map of the lesson plan to integrate. Now, the learning objective. This is talking about my own classroom when I taught the goal one in my classroom. In this activity, in this classroom activity, I focus more on the first activity to show my students some of the pictures showing, explaining the living condition of different people, different communities. And then seeing these, some were sleeping outside because they don't have house. Some also were looking for food because they don't really know where the next meal will come from. And then when my students showed these pictures, they was able to understand the condition of these people. This makes a call of social emotional learning objective. And we need to help our students to develop. And the question to answer this is, how does poverty affect individuals and communities? This is a question, make a call for student feeling. And now, how do you intervene? How to intervene? And what to do to help these people? So when my students were affected by the problem of other people, so we started to propose some solution. And after this first activity, my grammar was focused on some vocabulary. This focus on the cognitive learning objective. And my students were able to learn some new words as for extreme condition to assist they were able to use this new word in some sentences. This is in cognitive level because as a language teacher, they are here to learn English, and my students were able to use this new word in the sentences. And the grammar point focus on the conditional type 1. And this, I gave them the following question that was, what if poor people don't get assistance? And there my students were really to answer that if people or poor people don't have assistance, so they may turn to criminals. And this is relevant to my student context. Some also, if we don't bring assistance to poor people, we ourselves might be accounted for what is happening to them. My students were really able to understand this one. And now, what to mention, I work on causes and problem and solution. So for them, the solution, they propose some solution to this problem. As you know, in Mali, October is dedicated to help assistance to poor people. This is what the state of Mali has decided. Every October, so there will be a week of solidarity to help people in need. And I taught this lesson in October. And this was to help my students to develop how political factors are linked to education. And it is how system works. And that was really important. And this pushed our students to take action. This is on what we call the objective. And then my students decided to bring assistance to the people who were in need. Specifically, these were students, what we call here the Taliban. The Taliban are learners of Quran at informal conditions. Most of the time, the teachers have got more than 50 students. All these students are living to the teachers. So it is up to the teacher to feed them, to clothe them, to provide them everything, and to take care of them when they are ill. In reality, most of the teachers do not have a sufficient economic position to take care of every student. And most of the time in practice, these students go through the street to move from family to family to get food, to beg food. And most of them do not have shoes. Most of them will turn clothes. And my students bring assistance to these students. Some bring them shoes, some bring them clothes, and some also provide them with advice how we can help them to live out this kind of living and focus more on a formal education. So this were the behavioral objective I target, and I achieved. My student was able to. My students were able to achieve this one. And when you are teaching this one, encourage your student to do so after this cognitive objective, emotional, social emotional learning objective. Now help your student to have action, to take action. This is to implement the proposed solution and influence also the decision maker. Next slide. And now, as you can see here, this is a testimony of my stages in my classroom. So as you can see, the students were here to discuss what we see here, the target one. And it was really what we call this the transformative pedagogy. This helps our students to be fully prepared to be a good citizen. Many thanks for attending this session. I'm really glad to have your question. And you can have the reference here of the reference of this presentation.
Okay, thank you, Patrice, for this great presentation. And we are waiting for your question, if possible. Would like people to get ready for the questions. Do you have a question?
I think people will have to read their question,
Okay.
write their questions in the chat box, and then our moderator could read them for our person to answer.
Okay.
Lessons planning. This question is from Sajo. I think is that right? Okay, Sajo, can you hear me? If you can hear me now, so make a sign.
Hello. Would you please put your question in this chat box so that I read them to the presenter?
Sajo has a question, so she would like to know what are some challenges I faced when designing the SDGs lessons.
Okay.
Okay, great. So to come to this question, the challenges I face would just to get a connection between my curriculums and the SDGs. You are in Mali, so we have syllabus divided from government. So if you want to teach any of these lessons, you need to think if there is a connection between the time to teach the lessons required by the government and the entities you would like to teach. This is the main I face because of well to think about how you can to your official program. This is I think when someone also would like to teach this one, there are also in many languages you can you can take and teach this one in your lesson. Okay, this is my answer to Mrs. Sadu, if this is okay.
Oh no, we may have just lost our moderator. Is our moderator still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
You're here, okay.
Still waiting for question to put.
Okay, and is our speaker still there?
Yes.
All right, so it's just on my screen, okay.
Yeah.
And we stopped the videos just because of the sound quality, you know, the internet issues. But I saw a question here about, I wanted to know how I can ask a teacher in a local area to implementing English classes to include SDGs. How would you go about doing that and including it in their regular curriculum as they introduce the language?
Okay, so for this question, you have to get some news. There are many countries who sign what we call the Paris Agreement. The Paris Agreement, this is what all many countries would like to achieve the sustainable development goals by 2015. So I think most of the time, most of our countries are member uh, of the countries who signed the Paris Agreement. And there you need to relate to teachers that they can introduce the SDGs in the classroom according to the curriculum or to the syllabuses they have, because their country is a signature of the Paris Agreement. And this is something that fits better with what their state engage to achieve with other countries. Abdulaziz, I think this is what I can tell you to you about your question. I think you may understand this one.
And just a reminder to our participants, you have to write your questions in the chat box. So Gip Mutali, if you have a question, put it in the chat box for our moderator. All right, how about our moderator? Do you have any questions for our speaker, or what were some of the key points that you got out of the presentation?
Okay. Can Patrice tell us the 8 objectives of sustainable development? Can you explain?
Okay, please, your question.
Can you list us the 8 objectives of sustainable development?
You mean the competencies?
Yeah, the competences, yes.
Yes, so we think that the first competency we would like our students develop is what we call the system thinking competence. This system help our learners to understand how school is related to the family and how family also is related to the community. And beyond all this, we also need to understand how the environmental domain is linked to the finance domain, and how this finance domain is linked to the political dimension. So this is the system, and we need to our students understand how systems are together. And the next is anticipatory. Anticipatory is help our learner anticipate, to have a map of the future, to learn that there might be challenges in the future when we want to achieve the goals by 2030. And now our student will provide some solution for the future. And the next one is normative competence. This competence focus more on the student values. They need to ask themselves what are the values, their role in the family, their role in the community to have a sustained future. And next one also, we talk about the and this skill also permit our learners to collaborate, to work together so that they can achieve all the goals we mentioned by 2015. And this means for the teacher, when you are in the classroom, focus more on collaboration. That will permit your students to understand each other, how they can move forward. So this can be a task of group work, pair work, and even it can also be a project work in the classroom or outside the classroom. It go beyond.
That's great.
And we have also the social emotional competency. This competence help our learners to understand themselves. Because when you understand themselves, you need to think that there are also people, other people who might have some different thinking or some different opinion from yours. And they need to understand one that will permit them to have an inclusive future. And we have also the problem solving skills. These skills permit learners to combine the above all the previous competencies I mentioned together to find solution for the sustainable development goals by 2030. Sorry.
So we
Okay,
have
now I have a question.
Can I
How
ask
can
a
the
question
SDG
from our Facebook fans? So we have people watching on Facebook as well, and we don't want to forget about them. So here's a question from our Facebook page. This is from Chris Bea. My question is, when you start with your project until now, did you notice any progress with your students? And what was it?
Okay, so I need to mention here that I have worked with my students on two projects. The first one was really the environment problem. That was goal 13, climate action. So during this project, my students, many of my students were aware of uh, the environmental problem they face. For example, in the local area, we have deforestation. So that was affecting the local people life. Introducing the planting trees project, students were there to develop many skills. That was how we got together because when they planted trees, they collaborated a team leader will help the team leader how to take care of the young trees from the beginning, from young to get the trees strong. So this is an improvement of the skills my students develop. And also, so it permits my students understand more how the world is facing the climate action in different areas of the globe. This is the first part. The second part is the poverty. This lesson, my students, really, some of them didn't know that there could be some people who might know where the next meal will be come from. This was really important for me. So in the classroom, when students ask me, teacher, do you think there are some people who do not really eat, don't have lunch at 12 all the time? I say, yes, there are many. So when you go out and see the tally you discuss here, so do you think why do they go to the neighbor family to ask for food? Because the teachers are not able to give them food. And now they need to look for and beg in the different families. This understanding is very important because some students are fair, they are in good condition, and they really don't know such difficulties many people in the world can face. And beyond this one, we learn also that there are many people in the world who really face hunger.
Okay. Patrice,
Yes.
there is another question coming. Can we give student collaboration homeworks as well with the SDGs systems?
Yes.
How?
Yes, we can give homework to students as SDGs. This will depend on what you would like your student uh, to. So it also depends on the goal you want. My example is the poverty uh, task. So in my classroom, when finished with my lesson, I gave them an activity that was to walk around in their community and check if really some people are going with Taliban, I say, are going to another family to ask food or even money or even close to people. So this is an activity very important. And that they students meet together at school or at 8, they get out and make a run in the classes. And then they note uh, the different things they saw. And then when they come back in the classroom, we discuss this. So I tell this activity as a follow-up activity. So it means you can always give a homework task to your student to do.
Okay. Thank you, Patrice.
Great.
All right, everyone.
The
Thank
second issue,
you,
what if
moderator.
the school principal find the collaboration homework?
And
Patrice,
moderator,
Patrice,
do you have some last words?
yeah. Patrice, thank you for this great presentation. It's
Okay,
true
good.
that we have some problems with maybe the screen, but it is a great presentation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So we thank you, and we are
Okay.
getting ready for the next presentation. So Dan, you have the floor.
Great, everybody. So we're going to have a quick break so that we can just take a breath and think about all those great things that Patrice just shared. You can continue asking him questions in the chat. We are going to start again with our next speaker at 11:30 GMT. So depending on where you're at, that's in nine minutes. So take a break until then. All right, welcome back, everyone. We're ready to get started with our next presentation for today. So I'm going to turn it over to our moderator. If you're here, please unmute and turn on your camera, and let's get the next presentation started.
Hello. Hello, everyone.
Yes, we can hear you. This is great. All right, go ahead.
Hello, everyone. Hello. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Okay, good morning, everyone. I am Lekum Babaro from Senegal. I am pleased to be here with you, and I'm welcoming all of you. Today, we are going to introduce our presenter, Ernest. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Ernest Geda is an English teacher at Lycée d'Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire. He also teaches at the Science Department of the University of Nangui, Abrogoa of Abidjan. He is a U.S. Fulbright Fellow, a study of the U.S. Institute scholar, and a Fulbright teacher, teaching excellence and achievement alumnus. He is also an awardee of the IREX 2019 Teachers Grant for the project, teacher training on material design, and Secretary General of English Teachers National Association, SINELTA. Thank you so much. Welcome, Ernest. The floor is yours. Hello.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Western and Central Africa Teachers Conference. My regard to the organizing committee. Thank you, Leah, for the big job you're doing for teachers. And also my regard to the RILO, Dan Roger, the RILO of West Africa and Central Africa, for reinforcing teachers' skills in Côte d'Ivoire and in Africa in general. So as you can see, today we are going to address a very important question as language teachers, the question of improving learners' writing and speaking skills. And we're going to do this through an approach called project-based learning. We are really happy in Côte d'Ivoire because the book that we use with terminal classes was based on this approach, project-based learning. So this is the outline of our presentation of today. First, we are going to understand the tool used to achieve our goal. I mean the project learning, project-based learning. We're going to understand first what this project is, this approach is, who are the founders, what is the rationale behind this approach, then why could we integrate speaking and writing in our project, then how did we implement these projects with our students, because I chose a sample student in my country. What was the task that I assigned, the task they had to perform, and the tools that we used. Then what were the outcomes and the results on my students as language learners? Next slide. So as introduction, I can say that in the field of teaching English as a foreign language, in the classrooms, teachers are faced with many challenges. And finding a solution requires identifying the roots of the problem. Like many of my colleagues, I have noticed unsatisfying results in 2 skills with my learners. The 2 skills are writing and speaking. I therefore decided to engage my learners in writing and speaking through a project. Next slide. Now let's try to understand the approach, project-based learning. What is therefore PBL? Next slide. Look at these pictures and tell me what you know about this approach. What are the skills this approach tries to elicit in learners? In picture 1, picture 2, picture 3, 4, and 5, what are the skills that learners can develop here? Could you also tell me what are in these pictures the 21st skills that learners can develop? You can give your answers in the discussion box. Thank you. Next slide. Then you can see 2 pictures here. Who are those people? What do you know about them? As you can see on the left, we have a philosopher called John Dewey. And the second picture is a teacher from America called William Hart Kilpatrick. These are the founders of the approach. Next slide. Then let's try to define the approach according to Dewey. Historically, project pedagogy dates back to the philosopher John Dewey, who places the project as a realization in small groups by division of labor and rotation in the role assumed by each of them. Next slide. Then this is the way it defines PBL. Like you can see in the picture, children participate in preparation of projects, which they will carry out according to a cooperative division of work, characterized by frequent rotation in the assignment of leadership roles. In this definition, 3 words are important. First, cooperative, which means collaboration. Second, leadership. Okay, in the picture you can see this boy explaining. He is taking the lead of the project, and the others are listening. Then they will take also the role, because the project is something which is done in collaboration with other members of the team. Next slide. Then this approach was something broad. It should be applied to teaching. And the man in the picture here is the one who tried to apply this in the teaching field. The name of this teacher is Kilpatrick William Hurt. So in 1918, he published an article called Project Method. So in this article, he tried to define all the different steps of this project. We're going to see this in the next slide. According to him, this is the way in the teaching field we could apply this approach. So first, what can you see in the picture? What are the children doing? Can you imagine what the child in the center is doing? What the others are trying to do? What can be the goal of this project? So according to William Hart, a project-based learning is an approach in which teaching must start from experience, please, organized through productive work. Two words are important in this definition. We have organized, so we should organize the work, and produce. So production is expected from learners. In the project, we start with organization, and the end is the production. Next slide. Then, basing on this approach, and knowing that this can also work, we tried it in our school in Côte d'Ivoire. So this is the sample of learners that we collected. Next slide. So we decided to take a sample of learners, 2 classes in a secondary school in Côte d'Ivoire. The school is called the Lycée Classique Abidjan, a lower 6 literature class where English is a major and a lower 6 science class of 75 students. The objective is to try the approach in the 2 different types of classes. Next slide. So we define the project task. In groups of 5, investigate about your origins, customs, traditions. Write a paragraph about them for a classroom presentation. So first, they had to go and investigate about the origins, the traditions, the customs. It means that the members of the group should be of the same tradition so that they can conduct easily the investigation. Then they will come back in class, write a paragraph, and have a kind of oral presentation. So this was the task. Next slide. Why I decided to integrate speaking and writing in the same project. According to you, what can be the reason for integrating the 2 skills? Okay, here are the reasons. We have 3 main reasons. The 2 skills are both productive skills, because in teaching the language, we have 4 skills. And the 4 skills are divided into 2 groups: productive skills and receiving skills. Productive skills are writing and speaking, and receiving skills are listening and reading. So for me, my learners should produce through this approach. So I chose productive skills. The productive skills also measure learners' language performance. And the third reason is that the approach, PBL approach, is a perfect tool to challenge this performance. Next slide. Then, what was the tool and the methodology? In this approach, you should have a clear tool given to learners to use on the ground, and the methodology they should follow. The first tool was a questionnaire, a list of questions they have to ask to the traditional authorities, to the parents, to people that they can consider as resource people. Then the methodology was learned in class, writing the paragraph. So they had to follow the methodology of writing a paragraph, starting with the introduction, giving the different parts, and a conclusion. Next slide. So here we can see the investigation tool and methodology. Of questions. Where do we come from? So the learners are going to ask the parents or the authorities, the villagers, where do we come from? What are our traditions, foods, ceremonies, what are our beliefs, the type of governance among our tribe, what are the main threats to our tradition today? Is there a national policy to protect our tradition? what should be the contribution of the youth to protect our tradition? And on the second column, we have the resource people they can see, traditional authorities, elders, and also internet sources. Next slide. Then here are the production of the learners. We have some samples of writing. On the left, we have writing about the foods of those students, country, or let's say tribes. And on the left, the clothing. So the different clothes people wear in the country or in the tradition, in the group of people. So I'm lucky that here in Cote d'Ivoire, we have different group of people coming from West Africa. We have Nigerian people, people coming from Togo, from Benin, from Senegal, from Liberia, from Sierra Leone. So all those students were in my class. The sample of writing on the left is from the group of people, the group of students coming from Burkina Faso. Okay, they described the traditional clothes in Burkina Faso. And on the left, that is the sinful people in Cote d'Ivoire, in the north of Cote d'Ivoire, the foods they eat in the tradition. Next slide. This is another sample of the writing productions. Okay. On the left, we have also a kind of a traditional clothes of people of the west of Cote d'Ivoire. It is a traditional bubu, and you can see young people even wearing the bubu. It is they told me that we can use those clothes for traditional ceremonies, for let's say traditional wedding, or even for other ceremonies. Okay. And on the right, this is the production, this is the writing. So this is the sample we have, the pictures and the writing. Next slide. Now, these pictures show the oral performance. After writing, they had now to come on stage and read or even perform, explain, okay, what they found in the investigation. So I decided that day, with the permission of the administration, to allow my students wear traditional clothes of the villages. Okay, the khaki uniform is the one that we wear in our schools, but that day particularly to give, let's say, a true sense to this lesson, they had to put on the traditional clothes. Yes, next slide. Okay, so as you can see, what were the outcomes and the impacts of the learners? First, my focus was on the writing skills, and second, the speaking skills. Here are the impacts. First, on the writing, the learners could write freely with a good flow of ideas, the paragraphs. Why? Because they were really motivated and they were curious to know about the traditions. And second, the recorded interviews and findings on the net could help them get the needed ideas. Now, on the speaking skills, as you can see in the picture, during the oral performance, they could freely speak about their traditions. They were proud because they were talking about themselves. It was different from our traditional reading text with comprehension questions that they had to look for the answers in the text, but that production was so natural because it is their own findings. And even shy students who were not used to speaking in class, that day they were really motivated to talk about the traditions, about the people. Next slide. So I can say that In conclusion, the motivation of learners for this project and the impact on the writing and speaking skill show that PBL, project-based learning, is an effective approach to really enhance learning skills, writing and speaking skills. And even if some aspects need to be improved, the approach is really beneficial to teaching English in our classes. And we encourage teachers to integrate PBL into the language teaching practices. So you can see some reference at the end of the day.
All right, thank you very much, Ernest. Is our moderator still on? I know she has low bandwidth. So, and Ernest, you should be able to unmute.
Oh, I'm here.
Okay, good. Go ahead, the presentation is finished.
Congratulations, Ernest, for your great job. It is really insightful. We appreciate it a lot. You gave us many things about PBL, which we can apply in our respective classroom. This is wonderful. Thank you so much for presenting. Dear audience, if you have any questions, we are listening. Please listening. And I jot down some questions from the chat box. I would like to read the first one. Someone said if it was easy to put them from the same cultural background, and yes, how did you do?
Ernest, were you able to hear the question?
Yes, I didn't hear the question very well.
I don't exactly. Think so. So,
yes.
and unfortunately, your sound is not good. So I'm gonna go ahead and read the questions, I think, since your sound is not coming through. All right. So I believe, well, I'm not sure. I'll look for the one she asked. But your first question is this the same as cooperative learning approach, or can we liken it to that? And they also said it was a very nice presentation.
Thank you very much. It is a real pleasure for me to take part in this great conference. I think that there is a link between cooperative learning and PBL, because we have some, let's say, elements that they share together, like cooperation, collaboration, and teamwork. So, of course, there is a link.
All right. And the next question here is, how did you manage to form groups? Like, what kind of criteria did you use with your way of going?
Well, thank you. I saw this question many times in the discussion group. Like I said, it is a great opportunity for me in Côte d'Ivoire to have many groups of people in my class. So when I presented the task, I even didn't know that some were Burkina Faso, were from Niger, from Nigeria. But when I put the topic on the board, they could easily recognize that they come from, those different countries, and the group was formed so quickly. It is from this lesson that I discovered some people coming from those countries.
Sorry, I think we muted you accidentally, Ernest. You were just saying, so you have to unmute, and you were just saying you asked students who came from different countries.
Yes, okay. I was saying that when I put the topic on the board, I'm not the one who formed the groups. The students themselves recognize the origins, and they quickly form the groups. So it is from that day on that I even know that some of my students were coming from Nigeria, from Burkina Faso, from Togo, and so on and so forth. But what I noticed is that some people joined, for example, groups from Niger. They say that they are from Cote d'Ivoire, but they want to join the group of Niger to know more about the tradition of Niger. This was another experience.
Wow, that's fantastic. I just want to make a note for everybody listening who may have joined. If you have questions for Ernest, please write them in the chat box. That way, if we don't get to them now, he can have a chance to answer them later. And it also helps us with the technical things, since everybody's coming from different countries with different bandwidth. All right, here's a good question for you. Jeffrey asked, I would like to know what mode of communication was done. Was it in their local language, or were they in both languages and English? How do you communicate across all those cultures with your students in these projects?
Yeah, that's a good question. During the presentations in class, it is true that we use language because my objective is to make them communicate in English, speaking and writing. But during the interviews with the parents, they could speak the language to have more information. Okay, and even that day, I told them to speak and to say something in the languages. For example, how do we say good morning? Mosi is from Burkina Faso, and in Senegalese, in Wolof, how do we say good morning? So it was something like a cultural change, but using English as a kind of, let's say, opportunity for them to do this. It was really authentic. And some even gave with some symbols, what we use during traditional weddings in Senegal and in Niger, and they gave the name in the local language, and then we try to translate into English.
Wow. So the other thing is I want to let you know, because I know you're here with us in Zoom, there's been a lot of great comments on our Facebook. People are saying you're laying out very clear objectives, that this is an amazing, amazing presentation. Alain commented that groups are designed according to the purpose. At times you'll want to revive slow learners, then you put them with more apt learners. Is that what you do as well? Do you want to comment on that?
Yes, exactly. In the group, there were some slow learners. This is the advantage of cooperative learning and let's say group work. Okay, some could not speak even during lessons, answering questions. They were at the back, but that day in the group, the leaders make them participate because they were among themselves. During the preparation, the teacher was not there, so they were the ones organizing themselves. Okay, to share the roles.
All right, we've got a question here from Louis, and he says, if I got it right, you said that you put them in the groups on the basis of culture, right? If that is the case, do you think in doing so you are encouraging collaboration or teamwork in your class? So tell us more about how you group and what you think the purpose is from that.
I don't get the question very well.
Okay, let me go back. Okay, so I'll ask it. So you said that you put them in the groups on the basis of culture. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Okay. And then the question is, if that's how you do it, do you think in doing so, you are encouraging collaboration or teamwork in your class? So I guess the question is, why put them in the groups based on culture? What was your thinking there?
I did this because of, first of all, the topic that I chose. And you see today, in our countries, because this is the hidden curriculum, or this is the idea, this is hidden behind my approach. Today, many of our learners don't know their culture. Many of them don't know even the villages. and they cannot even speak their own languages. So for me, it was an opportunity for them to go back and know their identity through an English lesson. And I think that I succeeded because some parents were astonished that the kids come back from school and say, our teacher wants to know where we come from, what are our traditions. And it was really interesting for parents to give back the answers. Okay, and I even remember that one of the parents wanted to come and take part in the lesson. I said, no, maybe the administration will not accept. So this is the idea which is hidden and behind my lesson. I mean, permitting our learners to go back to the culture. And I was inspired by a lesson in the terminal book, which is lifestyle and times, moving with times. And we saw a lesson on Indian culture, how the Indians were complaining about the threats to the culture. We have the same situation, we have the same reality in Cote d'Ivoire. Okay, many of our learners have almost forgotten about the culture, which is not good. So it was an opportunity for me to address this question.
I just want to let you know as well, we still are getting comments on Facebook about how great your presentation is. Some people even said they fell in love with your presentation. I guess you're going to have a lot of people trying it and asking you more questions. We have a question in our Zoom chat from Loveline. She wants to ask you about assessment, an authentic assessment. Is it possible to fit that within the context of PBL? And if so, how did you evaluate your objectives in the project? How did you evaluate and do your assessment with those projects?
Well, the assessment was based on the criteria about writing and speaking. It is true that learners produced, my aim was how they could produce, integrating the two skills, writing and speaking. So in the writing lesson, we saw how to organize a paragraph, the title, the introduction, the body of the writing, topic sentences, capitalization. So all these elements are, let's say, the criteria I took into account when reading the paragraph, but also how they organize the ideas. Okay, so all these elements are taken into account. Even if we are talking about food, about clothes, how do you write about all this? So these were the criteria. And secondly, when speaking, because they had to produce, to perform. So how do they introduce? It is a kind of a free speaking. How do they introduce the topic? And what do they say exactly? So progressively, how can they make the students understand them? So, and the flow of ideas, okay, the fluency, all this was. When I see the level of the students, they are, let's say, advanced students in our system of education. When we talk about lower six and upper six, they are at the end of the secondary, let's say, second cycle. So in the books of second, premier, and terminal, we have seen many lessons about education, about tradition. So even in premier, there are some texts about tradition. And in terminal, please, the first lesson is about tradition. So when we saw the texts about Indian people, I also gave them a list of words related to tradition. So this is, I didn't teach a particular list of vocabulary, but regarding considering the lessons that we have seen so far, they could have the necessary words to write those paragraphs.
Oh, that's great. So I think the next question is really if you can describe the context in where you teach, because the question Suleiman, or the comment that he made was, working at a distance is not easy. Did you use internet to put your students in contact? I understand you said you used Mostly, Nigerian, and Senegalese. So I think, what is the context of your students? Are they together in a classroom, or are you teaching in a distance? Describe your context, I guess, for teaching.
They are with me in my classrooms. Okay, those groups are with me in my classroom. And having Nigerian people and Burkinabes in our country is not something so difficult. They have even the Association of Nigerian People, and they have some meetings. They have the authorities, and I know that even every year they meet the ambassadors for, to organize a day of Nigerian culture, Burkina Faso culture, even Senegal culture. So it was not easy. We were not working at distance. It was in my classroom. And in myself, I can speak some words. Yes, mostly words. When I say yes, sorry. When I say, for example, Tanampina Wakapoi, this is, I remember that when I was a child, I had a friend, and when we were playing marbles, his mother could come and ask him to come and wash himself. And when he doesn't come, her mother says, "Hey, you, Tanapina Wakapoi." It means that, hey, please come back. I will beat you. So, and the Senegalese people, they are, we are together eating chip every day. So it was not difficult for me to work with all those people. They are well represented in Cote d'Ivoire.
Yeah, I think what you're bringing up is a valuable point. We aren't isolated anymore. Borders change in the sense of people have to move through them, whether it's for conflict or work or economics or different things. So it really is, and I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Cote d'Ivoire is a very diverse country in the fact that different people from different areas, though they may have a certain ethnic identification, they're all together. So building these cultural ties and getting each other to know each other is really important for a peaceful society.
Exactly. I fully agree. And we even said that in Cote d'Ivoire, our, let's say, the main word in our, let's say, national anthem is hospitality. So we are organizing the African Nation Cup this year. We are waiting for everybody here. So I'm preparing my students to welcome all those people.
All right, and we've got a question here from Suleiman about how much time does it usually take to finish a project? So when you have a project, what's the start and end frame within that?
Yes, it is a good question. In fact, there are some projects that can take about, let's say, months, 1 or 2 months. And I even tried this project when I started teaching. But what I noticed that it's time consuming, and we have a kind of pressure on teachers. We have to complete the curriculum. So what I'm doing now is organizing a project that can last at least 4 weeks. It means 2 or 3 weekends when my learners can go and work on the project. So this project took 1 month. We started at the beginning of April, and we finished at the end of April. So they could take the Easter holiday to conduct many activities. It took only 1 month.
All right. So with that, our final question is from Faith. How often would you recommend one to use the PBL method?
How?
So Faith wants to know, how often would you recommend using the PBL method?
Yes. Frankly speaking, I recommend all my teachers to try or to do at least once in the school year, a project with the learners. It is really interesting and motivating for them. So I do it every year once in one of my classes.
All right. Thank you very much, Ernest. I think we enjoyed the presentation. We enjoyed the Q&A time. For those of you who may not have been able to hear Ernest's bio, I would like to emphasize he has played a fantastic role in the Alumni Association for the T program, the Teachers of English of Excellence in Cote d'Ivoire. He's a Fulbright Fellow and studied for the Susi Scholar Program in Massachusetts, and was awarded a teacher grant. So he's got a lot of experience. And part of that experience has also played into this role where he helps to help other teachers with professional development. And for that, we thank you, Ernest, and we thank you for joining us today.
You're welcome, and it was a pleasure for me. Thank you very much, Dawn.
And now we're going to...
And some people are asking about... Can I say something? The last word is... Some people are asking about your email. Can you share it in the chat, please? Because they want to contact you.
So Ernest will take a look at the chat, right, Ernest? Before
Yes.
you leave, or if you stay all day, take a look at the chat and you can answer any questions that are there. All right?
Okay.
Because there were lots of questions. All right. Let's take a break now. We will be back at 12:30